2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us. What does it mean to have a battle to fight? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers.
We're therapists.
And we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin. Hey, Tyler.
Brannon, what's going on, man?
Oh, not much. I made a special recipe last night.
Mulligan stew?
No, it wasn't any of Dad's weird food.
Tomato gravy?
Oh, that was the worst. Ugh. Do you remember when he mixed? Tomato soup with broccoli cheese soup?
I think it was split pea soup in powder form. And the powder was still it's kind of like those backpacking meals that never quite rehydrate. It's like the first time I think I've ever puked at dinner.
Like, you'd take a bite of the soup and there'd be like powder.
Oh. I couldn't eat peas for like the next 20 years.
Oh, man. Yeah. I remember sitting there. It felt like forever just looking at that thing. And he was like, you got to eat it.
He's like, guys, you got to get it down. You boys got to eat it.
I was looking for the dog. I was looking like anything I could do.
Trying to shove it over, dump it into the next guy's bowl. Maybe Rex got it or something.
Oh.
So,
but anyways, I made sour chili and sour cream chicken enchiladas.
Oh, nice, man.
That was good. Yeah. I got all these leftovers. You got to come down.
Good for you, man.
So
you know how to do it right too.
Yeah. But anyways, I don't want to waste any more time on us talking, because I got literally one of my favorite people here, and somebody who has had a great impact on my life. And I'm just really grateful to have him. So we got Wade Roberts here from Become More. And we're going to dive into what he does, but just really, really happy to have you here, Wade. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
So Wade, how I met Wade was my other brother Rex. I don't know exactly. I think he knows Lloyd Wade, or I don't know how, but he got connected into this organization that goes to Cambodia, and that's kind of all I knew. And I was like, hey, I want to take my son and do this. And then so I actually followed through. We did it, and it was much more for me than I thought it would be. And we went what felt like all the way through Cambodia and experienced all kinds of things. and what I saw Wade building was incredible. And so I just wanted him to talk about it today, share his story, why he does it, and just share with you, the audience, an example of a man who is fighting a fight and has a battle to fight. And so, Wade, if you could just start back, like, how did you even get into all this? Like, how did this happen? How did you develop it? Where did it start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, the first connection that I had to anything Cambodia related actually comes about 25 years ago. I served an LDS mission in Fresno, California, Cambodian speaking.
Hmm.
From that, I then came back home, went to school, and got married, saved up for my first year anniversary, took my wife and I over to Cambodia, thinking it would maybe be romantic or something like that for our first year anniversary. And my eyes were opened. I had never seen poverty. I'd heard the stories from my mission. I'd heard about the war. I was aware of the genocide that had taken place in the late 1970s. And I was generally aware of the idea of poverty and famine and that were lacking, but I had never personally experienced it or seen it. And so I wasn't aware of how bad it could really be. So this first year anniversary trip that my wife and I took over 20 years ago now was kind of the launch point for me. It pricked my heart in a way that I couldn't unsee and I couldn't unfeel some sort of moral obligation to do something about what I saw.
Hmm.
So I shifted gears in school. I started studying different things that I felt maybe could help me. I didn't know how to help, but I wanted to help. So I started going to Cambodia pretty regularly. I eventually took a class that was called development economics. And I realized that there was this whole field of something that was approaching this problem that I had no idea about. And the professors were great. They taught and showed some case studies of some policy, some interventions, some things that had been done to use incentives, which we know works in economics, to reshape things and create opportunities for development and growth, sometimes for entire countries. And that really intrigued me. And so from there, I was encouraged and followed up on, went to graduate school and pursued a PhD in economics, and for the next several years went back and forth to Cambodia to collect data on a problem that I observed at the time that was massive, related to landmines and residual ordnance that was left over from clear back to the Vietnam era. A massive problem in Cambodia.
Hmm. A problem that we, like most of us Americans, don't even think about, right, or understand at all. Um,
Even you just saying what you just did, it's like I'm less connected to Cambodia than you are, that Brannon is now too, and so even that would maybe warrant a little bit more of an explanation.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, the short story of it is landmines have been used for quite a while now as a measure of war. And although they've been considered and deemed to be an immoral measure of war because they don't discriminate, and once they're laid in the ground without a map, with no way of finding them that's cheap, then for decades after that war is over, they continue to wreak havoc on a population. They're also landmines are designed to maim, not kill. So in time of war, it's strategic because if you have something that kills someone, you lose one person. If you have something that maims someone, you lose three people, because you have to now take care of that person, drag them off the
Mm.
field, provide medical services. It's a strategic way of winning a war that was played for quite a long time. Now, in all fairness, this is still being used. Most of the world has signed what's called the Ottawa Convention. It's it's essentially an agreement that follows from what we would know as the Geneva Convention, essentially the rules of engagement of a war, and not to use them, not to sell them, not to anything related to landmines. The big three that have not yet signed the Ottawa Convention, clear back from 1997, are China, Russia, and the United States. We
Mm.
get to sign. So as far as the production, the selling, the use, the whatever, we still have some big players, probably the three biggest players that have yet to sign the act, and so they are still being made and used, and
Interesting.
yeah.
Mm. I don't want to put you on the spot, but and maybe you don't know this, but do you know the numbers of like how many people like post-war have been hit by a landmine?
Yeah, I do. So it's something I spent quite a bit of time on. My area of specialty is primarily, of course, focused in Cambodia. At the time, Cambodia was the most landmine-laden country on the planet. So no country has been beyond that until recently. Now, with the conflicts that we're seeing with Russia's border, but Cambodia, post any sort of war, in some years, they were having tens of thousands of people maimed
Wow.
as a residual problem after war is over. The official count is much different from what is probably realistic, given what we know of how many were sold and how many were actually put into the ground. So the total count in Cambodia is probably somewhere between 24 and 33 million landmines,
Whoa.
which is beyond the population count, by the way.
Wow. Um, yeah, and that I mean, just when you think about that, just an innocent child or just whoever, all of a sudden is maimed. Like that's horrific. Um, Wade, as you're talking about this, I'm thinking to me, your story is kind of you see that problem and you've researched that. But another thing that I know about you is what you said about your trip with your wife. The poverty really struck you, and the other thing too is the trauma from the genocide. And I think again, a lot of Americans don't understand that, and so it's a country with all these different things going on, a lot of pain and a lot of healing, and it really hasn't been that long. And so for you, as you like look at this, how do you get overwhelmed when you see these problems? How do you approach it?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a sense of, you could do more. And for me, the way that I try to look at it is having experienced some success with this specific problem. The long story short is we researched this for years. We found that the problem, as it was described, everything was considered a landmine accident. And when you hear the word accident, you probably think of certain things like I did, which is like there's a random kid walking in a random field with no knowledge of anything being there, no intention of finding a landmine, and boom, an accident happens. That's the image I had in my mind. And so I imagined that that is what was happening because that's the word that was being used. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As I did my research, I found that in talking with thousands of people and visiting so many people that had the accidents themselves over a number of years, I found that the pattern in the story was very different
Mm.
from this concept of random accidents. Instead, it was following a behavior where the poor and the vulnerable were intentionally looking for metal that they could break apart and sell in the
Oh,
scrap markets.
So the poverty was driving
Absolutely.
these accidents, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
as part of the process of what we did, is we got it recategorized and we now call them landmine incidents.
Mm,
So, an incident is economically incentivized. Okay. And now, when you look at them, almost all of them are now called incidents historically, if we look at what they were. Okay. So, by understanding that, that's key. So, as an
mhm,
economist, we
mhm,
recognize incentives, and you can build incentives. And if you understand, incentives are just, something that's in place that motivates behavior. That's it. Okay. So we make them all the time. We make up rules for our kids. We're creating incentives. Now, maybe we made them right. Maybe we didn't understand it and we have to have versions of it or whatever. But at the basic level, if you create an incentive, you'll shift or modify behavior for people. Okay. So, in understanding that at a very basic level, the incentives that were at play were poor people or vulnerable people, mostly both, would go out, rent metal detectors, looking for this stuff, knowing it was risky, making their best guess at how to break it apart, where to sell the scrap metal, and they would do that for a period of time successfully until they had an incident result in maiming or death. And by understanding that the incentive at play here is that they were looking for income, okay, and breaking down the process to understand at what point in that story did the problem really occur. Most of the time, it wasn't when they found the ordinance, it was when they broke it open. And
mm,
they would do, everything you can imagine a young boy will do. It's mostly young men that do this. They'll throw it down, they'll hit it with rocks, get hammers, they'll go up to a little cliff edge and throw it down, they'll light it on fire and run. All of the things that you can imagine they would do, they've done.
mhm.
And and maybe they're successful for a little while, and then they're not. So, in understanding that, we were able to then advocate for policy that would intervene before it became massively dangerous. Okay. So, we've introduced what's called an on site payment program, which is where when they find the ordinance, they make a phone call to the local authority that is trained in explosive ordnance disposal. They come out and they weigh the ordnance that day. It's orchestrated at a village level, and they weigh it, and then they pay them cash that day at a rate that is higher than they could get if they engaged in the illegal behavior and took all the risk on themselves. So they still now they have a greater incentive to do this, especially with no risk attached, than they have to do what they were doing with a lower pay and all risk. So we found that by implementing it, we put it into one of the provinces in Cambodia for a pilot program. And after month one, we looked at the data, and the leaders in that area said, "This is clearly working. Let's launch this for the country of Cambodia." And it became the official policy in Cambodia starting back in 2007.
Nice.
Yeah. So we found a massive reduction. We've gone from, in some cases, 30,000 people a year to under 100. So the vast majority have been disconnected. Having said that, the landmine problem is not gone in Cambodia, but the most important part for me is the part where landmines were impacting people, right? So if landmines are still in the ground, but they're not killing people or maiming them, that's a much better scenario. And that's currently where we're at. As far as getting rid of the landmines, we've got many years ahead of
Yeah.
us, giving funding and other complications.
Yeah.
Wow, man, I'm sitting here and hearing this for the first time, Wade. Brannon, I just want to say before I ask my question here, Brannon came home from his trip with you a completely changed man. And maybe we want to get back into that a little bit later on in our conversation, but he just said, Tyler, like, I'm just thinking about all the good you're doing in the world, not only in Cambodia, but the way that you're structuring the way you do it so that you're changing the lives of someone like Brannon living in, Utah County. You're changing his life at the same time that you're saving young men's lives in Cambodia at the same time. And I'm starting to see all these dots connected in ways that I wouldn't think to connect the dots. And somehow you saw that. I'm wondering a couple of things. One is, you go on this trip, and maybe we need to let you finish your story. You go on this trip on your first anniversary, and things start to go into motion. But this is a years long process that had to come with a whole bunch of turmoil, a whole bunch of struggle, a whole bunch of red tape, a whole bunch of, like, some people will go on a trip and go like, oh wow, that was crushing, like I should do something about that. I'm wondering, like, what helped you stay the course and actually stay engaged in this, and why?
Yeah. Okay, so for me, I mean, in looking back, of course, I didn't realize this fully at the time, but what appeared to be a massive initial disadvantage in my life, which is having been born with cystic fibrosis and a shorter life expectancy, turns out to have been a major advantage in motivating me to get things done now. If you have the perspective that you won't live to be 60 or 70 or maybe even 40. When I was born, life expectancy was 8. It's
Wow.
it's changed. It's now, in the 40s for someone with CF. I'm now 47. So I've done quite well. They've come out with some amazing medicine that is really helping with the lungs and things like that. So, however, when I was first married, I didn't know that I would live to see 40. For me, it was, if you want to leave impact, you have to do it now. You don't have time to wait. We did have to sell our house. It's the only place we had any equity or money, and moved back in my parents' basement. My wife was kind enough to make that sacrifice, and for 3 years we lived in my parents' basement as newlyweds and with our first child, in an effort to be able to pay for trips to go to Cambodia. But for me, it was the area that I wanted to be able to have an impact in some way, so that I would know that my life mattered and that people were better off because I was here. And I think we all have that. We all want that legacy. We usually just have a misalignment in time, and we're able to say, well, I want that, but it's not appropriate to do yet. Let me wait until fill in the blank. Wait until I have enough money. Wait until I have enough free time. Wait until I'm not as busy. And for me, I didn't have that as an option. It was either you need to go do it now, or you need to be okay with the fact that you didn't do it.
Wow. Holy cow, man. And the attitude of that, like when you say what was a massive challenge becoming a blessing, I don't think most people look at it that way. But you're saying that it gave you the sense of urgency that allowed you to go and basically do in half a lifetime what most people think about doing in a full one.
Yeah, I look at life a little differently now. I spend quite a bit of time in Cambodia. With the charity, I'm out in Cambodia about a third of the year. I head out again here this Thursday. We're developing some really cool things. We've moved from landmine stuff I haven't done for years. Now we're doing development economics. We're helping to support villages. We're doing a very unique approach where we're looking at it holistically, and we're looking at building a sustainable process inside of a charity, which is unheard of, in order to provide village-wide support in areas of health, education, and a vehicle of savings or economic development, so that the economy can develop. We're also very data-driven, and we're tracking it. And these things are huge. And so I continue now to go out and do these things. But as I do it, I'm learning from them, being able to speak the language. I spend a lot of time with leadership there, with the local wise man, who is quite wise. He gives some incredible feedback about things that's changed the way I perceive things. One of the
Mhm.
things related to this that's helped, he talks about levels of consciousness. And levels of consciousness, he breaks it into 3. And I found this, the more I think about it, the more meaning it has. The first level of consciousness, as he says, is given to all men. We have it when we're born. It allows for all of the automatic processes of our body to work. We breathe naturally, our heart does it, our eyes work. All of these things, if you're still alive, then you have that first level as freely given. The second level of consciousness, as he describes, is something that you can get at any time of your life. It's called the Great Awakening, and it's when you decide to stand up as an individual and fully accept responsibility for you. Everything you do has consequence, and you no longer place it on anyone else's lap. You take full responsibility for self. And some people do this young, some people do it in adulthood, and some people never do it. Then he talks about the last level, the third level of consciousness, which not a lot of people reach in life. And this is such a great awakening that it's when you become aware of the fact that you are actually responsible for your neighbor. Now, that sounds really strange to some until you start thinking through it. Now, who's your neighbor? Well, anyone that you have the capacity to influence or impact. It could literally be your neighbor. It could be a sibling. It could be someone on the other side of the planet. In today's world, I would argue it is, because we have the capacity to impact or influence all the way on the other side of the world. So that's a moral reckoning. That's reaching a point where you actually have to accept that progress is limited as an individual and requires at some point to move forward, requires the efforts of others and the actions of others. And I'm able to extend an opportunity to someone on the other side of the planet to progress in a way that they could not extend that same opportunity to themselves. And that's what charity is. It's doing for others what they cannot do for themselves. And by the way, I'm in need of charity too. There are things I can't do for self that others have done for me. And so that's where that greatest level of consciousness, as he talks about, comes, is when we fully become aware that we have that responsibility to neighbor. And now we can choose to do one of two things: lean fully in and do it, or close your eyes and pretend you didn't see it.
Wade, I feel like you're calling me out. Like
Oh, dude, you just like totally slapped me in the face.
I went on a walk yesterday and I was trying to figure out something to listen to and couldn't find the right music or the right podcast. And so I just turned it all off. And the only thing I could think about was it's time to love your neighbor more. Like it's time to step in. And it was just like pounding in my heart. And then here you are coming on today and sharing that. Like, and I think to your point, like you either lean in or you don't. You either do it or you don't. And you're a great example of a man who's doing it.
It seems, Brannon, just before we move on to that, I'm stuck on those three levels of consciousness. It seems, and I wonder, Wade, you might have more thoughts on this. You almost have to have the second level of consciousness to even get to the third level of consciousness.
You do.
Because it's the choice, and this is where I think we talk a lot about in our platform. We talk about needing purpose, needing a battle to fight, and in your case, what you're demonstrating is that the battle to fight is trying to step into third level consciousness of I know who I am, and I have to use my choice to make somebody else's life, to make this world a better place, and that actually. I'm guessing, and I'd love for you to speak to this. I'd love to, even if you can even, I don't even know if you can tangibly speak to it, but that in a weird way it's almost self-serving because the quality of your life increases so much more when you're engaged in that way of living with that kind of purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I love having conversations about. I like to dive deep and understand things. I've been studying natural law a lot lately. with the help of this guy. His name's Om Ki. He's people go to him from all over Cambodia. When you're called to be a wise man there, it's a lifelong calling, and you have two main functions. Number one, it is your obligation to collect wisdom. And number two, you must share it with anyone who asks. And I can ask a question of him, and he will sit there as long as is necessary for me to gain an understanding of what it is he's teaching. And he's incredibly wise. And we've had some great discussions. Something that it comes to mind as you guys are bringing up specific points is, when you scrape away all of the layers of self, and this might get a little bit into the realm of, you have to consider what was before you were here. But most people have a similar belief system. They believe at least that they were somewhere and they were something before they came here. But when you scrape away all the layers of self, what is left? And that question, I initially went to the wise man, and he asked me, in my belief system, what is it that's left? What is it that God never gave you that you are before he selected you? I think that's a key principle to be aware of. And so, of course, in LDS theology or Christian theology, you can at least trace it back to the concept that you were something like an intelligence. You had intelligence and you could make decisions. And so that's as far back as I could get. And he challenged me and he said, "You're right, but what is the pair? What is everything in nature? It never exists alone. So what is the coupling? What's the pair to decision making? What else could you do?" And it was weeks of me contemplating this and drawing blanks. Finally, I met with him again and it clicked. And so, in saving a lot of time, as you're thinking through that, what I found the pair to be that's not emphasized very well with vocabulary or jargon or in religion or even in secular science, but the pair of decision making is discernment.
Hmm.
Now, the key there is in English, it's a little weird because we use the word comparison. Okay. And comparison has a negative connotation, right? And lots of adages that line up with negativity, like, comparison is the thief of all joy and all of these things. But actually, as he pointed out, fundamentally and critically, if you could not discern, if you could not make comparisons, you would not have the capacity to make decisions in any way other than random. And progress is not possible, no matter what you consider progress to be towards, it would not be possible without the full pair of discernment and decision making. So being able to discern first and then decide, and then it's a full loop. They call them karmic cycles. It's a full loop where the consequences that naturally follow, again, inform your discernment for the next round. And that process is fundamentally who you are. You're constantly doing it. I've never met a human that is bad at making a comparison. It's just we're not fully owning the fact that we have an obligation to do so. At all moments, you should be discerning and deciding over and over again until you refine it and hone it and get better at it.
Wade, like when you're talking about discernment, are you discerning it to figure out truth, to figure out how to create love, to figure out how to, is it about just survival? Like, as you're going through this process, or is it just faith? You're discerning, you don't know exactly why, but just your next move.
Everything.
Yeah.
Discernment is a wide cast net. It's comparing all of the available information and history and knowledge and wisdom in order to move forward in anything that you're currently doing. Okay, so I'll give you an example. For me, I've been able to teach at universities for a number of years and have lots of students to be able to talk with about these topics. And one of the things that I find interesting is that when you think about your moral obligation or what is imperative for you to do with your time, your resource, your energy in order to assist other people, it's really interesting that when you ask the question, who is it that you're responsible for? We all have a very quick kind of knee-jerk reaction. Most of the time it goes something like, well, my kids, my wife, maybe my siblings or parents. And then after that, it gets a little fuzzy. It's like, maybe if somebody asks me for help, or my extended family, or we have these like concentrically expanding circles of obligation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being able to remove those layers and say, well, wait a minute, what about if we push on that just a little bit here? Let's say you have $1,000 to use to help someone. Do you have more of an obligation to use that for the guy that lives on your street, or the guy that shares race or gender or religion? Or do you have more of an obligation to use that resource in a way that will benefit humanity the best? Now, I propose that in answering that question, you first have to say, okay, the most important question you're answering that reveals how you feel about that is, do you value all people equally? Now, we want to say yes, right? Ethically, we feel like that's the right thing. Maybe culture would judge us if we say no. We don't want to say that, we value life less if it has these attributes or qualities, or from this country. That would definitely not be a popular thing to say. But if you look at how people actually use their money, you would have to argue that people actually value those that look like them the most.
Oh, interesting.
That's how we're spending our resource. So if we start to flip the argument and say, well, let's say that we're looking at, in one extreme case, if you use the $1,000, okay, which it would require more than this, but let's just keep the numbers easy, to provide someone a walking dog. Okay, they're 100% blind. They need help getting around, and you're able to use that resource to afford a dog that can help get them around and give them eyes, so to speak. Or you could take the same resource and take it to sub-Saharan Africa and prevent 100 people from ever having river blindness.
Oh.
What is the most appropriate use of the resource? Now, interestingly, the answers borne out in fact come down to, well, do I know the blind man? And is he like me? Right? Now, these are uncomfortable things for people, because we're all doing something right now in this conversation that aligns very well with what we just talked about with discernment and decision making. We're all thinking, how do I stack up? What have I done? Is this in alignment with my past behavior? See, everybody's good at the discernment if they're trying to do it.
And the discernment is an ongoing, as you said. That's back to what you were saying about we have an obligation to gain as much wisdom and share it with whoever asks. The discernment is the process of developing the wisdom. So, and that's where maybe it would be different with the walking dog question. It's like most of us go like, yeah, the river blindness one affects more lives. The person who's had life experience with an emotional support animal and the goodness that is brought to their life has a different level of discernment than the person who's been to Africa and seen river blindness.
Mhm.
So those decisions are being made based off of the ongoing process of discernment if we're doing it consciously.
The hard thing that I'm having, like, you're getting me thinking, Wade. I love this. Like, how do I? It seems like I just have my perspective, so I live within this like lens that I live in, and so like I might not know that I could save 100 Africans from blindness, and but I might know that person who needs the dog. And if I knew I could save 100 people from blindness, it's a no-brainer for me. But when I only have this perspective in front of me, like, I guess, what does that mean? Like, how do I open my eyes up to a whole new lens, a whole new perspective, so that I can bless as many people as I possibly can, right?
Yeah, I think, we're starting to see a move towards what's called effective altruism, which essentially is charities are starting to realize that They need to be transparent in revealing impact. Not a lot of charities are good currently at measuring data and delivering data to people so that they can see how much something is changing lives. There's an obligation there on the part of the charities, but you can also be asking them questions, and then you can discern which organizations are attempting to do this, and can they show me what a dollar does, like how much good is it actually providing. And then
Mm-hmm.
you'd be amazed. Like there's so for instance with water, one of the things we do in villages when we first go in and want to provide support is we have to have enough things going on so that people aren't dying from basic problems, right? And the water in these rural areas of Cambodia, they're drinking from visibly brown streams. Right. And so we'll go in and we put in water systems. We've got a couple different types. We've got the biosand filters. We've got the reverse osmosis systems that are incredible. And pretty much Taiwan standard water comes out of these systems. Right. And those systems are about $20,000, and they provide for 350 families in a village. It's a massive system. And when you start looking at, we measure the flow on the system, so we can tell you how many gallons are being used per month. We can, project that out over the 20 years of its expected life before you'll have to replace things on it. And when you do the math on it, then I can actually tell you that for every dollar we're spending on a water system, we end up getting 7,000 gallons of water.
Wow.
And now this is not just water, this is safe drinking water. We actually had to rebrand it out there instead of clean water because of the way the word clean translates in Khmer. It has some problems with being confused with just the visibly not brown water. So we actually call it safety water, because every time you call it safety water, when people are new, they're like, well, wait a minute, what's the unsafety water?
Mm.
Like, oh, well, and that creates a conversation, right? And now you have more information that you can discern. You're like, okay, well, all you got to do is go to the school where we put the water system in, and forever you'll have access to safety water, right? And then you start seeing health outcomes change. And we've got 8 of these systems in different villages, but we're also tracking data for 85 villages, so we actually know what the rate of different problems are and how much things change when you just put water in, and how much health outcomes rise, right? So those are all important things, and you can look at every program and be able to say, when we're spending in this way, these are the measured outcomes. This is how it's moving the needle. And maybe it's not moving the needle, right? We've got several areas right now that we're testing in order to see if it moves the needle. We have a theory that it will. We're putting it into place. But many of these areas, no one's ever actually done the academic rigor that's required in order to prove it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, for instance, feminine hygiene. Okay. So it's a topic that maybe doesn't get discussed a lot, but in these rural areas of Cambodia, essentially what we have going on is, as girls mature and become women and start their period, every girl is uniquely diagnosing and solving the problem of the period without the assistance of anyone.
Oh, wow.
Not their mother, not someone at school, not someone from the health clinic. They're all trying to figure it out. And what we see is that a very strong correlation exists between the timing of when girls start their period and the dropout rate from school.
Oh, interesting.
Now, they're correlated. We're not sure yet if they're causally linked, so we're testing it. So we've rolled out feminine hygiene programs. They've got reusable pads. They've got all the information about it. They can make it themselves. We've got ongoing education at the school. Every month they have an hour of additional information that's being taught to them. We get the Minister of Health involved. So there's this big wraparound, initiative that goes into it. And now for a number of years, we'll track it and we'll see how did that thing impact the attendance rate at school. And as a scientist, I have to say, well, I think it's going to impact it, but I actually don't know. I have to
Right.
wait for the data, and whatever the data says is truth.
Right. Right. Wade, we're going to run low on time, and there's a couple things I really want to hit with you.
Yeah.
And I get this one is probably similar to what you were just talking about. But having you come on, like, we got to talk about those fat cows. Like, like I saw the contrast between the cows that you have going on there and the normal cows in Cambodia. If you could just talk about like that and what that means and why you do that a little bit, that would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So, our basic model, we've realized that while most charities are going to try to specialize in one thing, if you want to change things for people in a significant way, they have to at least have basic health. They have to have the opportunity for education. So, we take care of those things, okay? But then those things by themselves are not enough to create the conditions that will allow for development to take place. You actually also have to have a third area, which is essentially you have to have the ability to save money. Okay. So these areas where we're at, most people will make about $1.60 a day. They're what's called extremely poor. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them are not even meeting basic caloric requirements, right? They go without food. So what we've done is we've gone out and we've looked at what is the best vehicle of savings in this area. And it could be something different in a different country, but the model is still consistent. You have to have the ability to produce savings. So we compared stuff in agriculture, things you can grow, rice or corn or whatever in the area, to different things like animal husbandry. And what we found is that the highest return on investment, if you tweak the model and do it right, is found in cattle. So we have a fat cow program. The typical Cambodian cow is what's called emaciated, like super skinny, like skeletal, as you saw when you were there,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, wow, that thing looks like it died a year ago. It's
Yeah.
so tiny, right? So we're talking a full adult female is 400 pounds. Okay. So that's about a third of what it should be if she's, healthy and strong. The type of cows in Cambodia, we usually have like the yellow Chinese cow and the Brahma cow, which is from India, the one with the hump on the back,
Mm-hmm.
and then some mixed breeds that have both. And so the short story of how this works is skinny cow model, which is what they're currently doing, is typically a young male not going to school that walks his cow for 4 hours a day, grazing on random weeds that don't have much protein in them, taking them generally to a river where they can drink, and then bringing them back home. Okay. That model produces horrible results. 46% of those cows will die before they're old enough to breed at age 4. And it's
Wow.
age 4 because they're so skinny and it delays the onset of puberty. Okay. When we shift to the model that we have, where we brought in some of the Western information about how to do this the right way, we vaccinate our cows, which protects most of the problems. And then we actually build a cow stable. We bring the food to them as targeted feeding. We brought in a king grass, which didn't exist in Cambodia, that has 12% protein. We feed that to them, and we teach them the right way to actually raise their cows. Then what we get is by the age 2, just like we have in our country, these cows can become breeders and they can have a baby every year. And when you start multiplying and compounding the differences between the models, we found that there was a 5 times return on investment if we invested in cattle. So yeah, we have this fat cow program that we do as a village. But then where the magic comes in is we're able to lean into karma, which is a more than a strongly held belief, we'll say, in Cambodia.
Mm-hmm.
It's a knowledge. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
knows that whatever it is that you give in action or intention will be returned to you. Not maybe, absolutely, and in every condition. Whereas
Mhm.
here it's kind of like, well, if you take a pen from the bank, if nobody saw you, you might get away with it. No, no, no. You got away with nothing, right?
Right.
More than a pen will be taken from you in value because of your
Mhm.
action. So what we did here is we modeled the cows using karma. When a household gets two cows, essentially what happens is they have one that is their families and they have one that they take care of for the charity. That cow will have about 16 babies over its lifetime, and all of those babies from the charity cow will go forward to more poor families in that same village.
Mm.
And for the family cow, they get all of the babies from their cow except the first one. The first one is a give that they give to their neighbor in order to create a karma cycle that connects them. And they believe then in doing so, it helps bind them to their neighbor, but they will receive more than that in blessings. And it helps us speed up how quickly we can get cows to the entire village. So
Mhm.
that model's worked very well, and they're fully on board with it. And so that's what we have going on, rolling forward. We've got 4 villages so far out there that have some degree of support, from fully supported to partially supported. But of course, we're always looking for expansion and to get people involved. And as you know, Brennan, going out there, you get to pretty much you meet these families, you see the impact, you get to see all the programs. And boy, that's the other side of it, is getting Americans to have what we call a fulfillment trip experience. Because really, the Cambodians, with the model we have set up, they don't necessarily need us to go out and create development for them. We've got lots of employees that are doing that. What we really need on the trip ourselves is we're looking to be fulfilled. We're looking to go out there, and immediately, as you know, from day one when you're there, your mind is opened to discerning all of these different things that you didn't see yesterday.
Yes.
You're doing the math in your head all the time, like, holy crap, this is how people live. Boy, my problems seem pretty small right now.
Yep.
And when you have that experience with your family, it will bind you in a way. When you come back home, you're connected more. You have these common experiences, but you also now feel some sense of moral obligation for a give back. Maybe it's to
Yep.
that village, maybe it's to Cambodia, maybe it's to a different country, and that's okay.
Yep.
But do something with what it is that you have to give.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. The way you just described the fat cow programs, like, you think someone's hungry, let's give them some steak. Not someone's hungry, let's figure out a grass with more protein so we can grow more cows, more families can be. And the point that I really want to highlight here is Wade is running a charity that is doing it right. There's research. He's about sustainability. This is going to live on long after Wade is gone, and it's like having firsthand been there. I took my son and the impact that it had on him, but to see the children that we got to meet there and the communities and things actually changing. I saw these water towers. I saw the water. And it's just something that's awesome to be involved with. So Wade, how do people get involved with Become More? What would be helpful?
Yeah, honestly, becomemorecharity.org is our website, and they can check that out. My contact information is right on there as well if anyone's interested in reaching out. Honestly, the things we could use right now, we've got a couple schools that need to be sponsored for a year. Until they are sustainable, we're always in need of more water support as well. And if we've got people or listeners that are looking to sponsor a village and the Fat Cow program, we need some donors to help us with this model. And then we also invite them to come out and see it. I mean, you sponsor a school and then set up a time next year to come out with your family and see the school.
You tell that story about like who do you help, and we help people who are like us, and we don't think about the people on the other side of the world that look different than us. And I took my son there, and he hung out with this kid his age, this Cambodian kid who had quite a story, and Spent about 2 days with him, and by the end, when we had to split up, my son just was in tears, and they couldn't speak the same language. They didn't know any words, like, and they were like wrestling together and playing together and loving each other, and they were like best friends. And the Cambodians are our brothers and sisters, and need help like anybody else. And Wade, I just want to thank you for, not just for coming on today, but for all the work that you're doing, the great example that you are to me of a man who lives with purpose and loves and supports our brothers and sisters. I really do appreciate you a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And thanks for all you're doing and helping spread the word. And this really is something, we can impact others. The last thing I'll say with that is I had a dramatic mind shift years ago that really, really helped me put it into the right perspective. When I first started doing projects like this, I went and talked with a professor friend of mine, and I said, poverty is so big, I don't feel like I could possibly ever do anything that mattered. And she, being quite wise and a lot more experienced than me, she said, Wade, poverty is so large, anyone can touch it.
Yes.
Such a great way of looking at things. I just want to echo what Brannon said, Wade. I can feel things stirring inside my own soul and my heart. You seem like a wealth of resource when it comes to wisdom and the ability to help this world. I hope that our listeners are feeling some of what I'm feeling right now, because I'm thinking about my own life and the things, hopes, dreams, desires, identity of who I am, who God created me to be. And I'm feeling a little bit of a stir and a call to action. And I would just throw that out there to anybody else listening who's feeling some of those same things. Whatever it is that you're feeling right now, follow through on that. Go get some more wisdom, go gain some more discernment, and continue to step forward on that path, because that's where life's really at. You can feel it oozing out of you, Wade. The life that you're living is life. It's rich, it's full. It's probably really difficult too. We didn't even touch that, but it's life. So thank you for coming and infusing that into our show today and to my life today. And for anyone listening, if this is valuable to you, you can obviously visit
Becomemorecharity.org, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also we'd love to hear your feedback. Get on and throw out some reviews and mention Wade. And until next time, you guys, keep on keeping on.